Good morning, listeners. Good morning. Welcome, welcome. And you're listening to Amar live on Spice FM. Each week we bring you some news, views, and one or two clues from the business world. Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities. And whether you want to talk business, have an existing business, or just want to do business, we can help. We can help. We can help. Good morning and welcome. It is Friday, the 1st of April. I could try doing April's Fool. But Allan Curry, our good friend, will be joining us very shortly. And alongside that, we have Amitabh Bachchan and various other significant celebrities, all tuning in to your weekly show business right here on Spice FM. That's right. This is the greatest radio show on earth. And I wonder what anybody would say about that. Anyway, can't believe that the world is progressing at such speed, and we're struggling with time. I was talking to someone this morning, and they were like, actually, Amar, the biggest challenge right now appears to be how much everybody is just simply trying to cram in such a short period. It is crazy, crazy. Anyway, happy April's Fool's Day, Mr. Curry.
Can you hear me, or am I in this word where we say you're muted?
You're not muted. I can hear you. I can see you.
Oh, that's good, because they're words we never knew, weren't they? 2 years ago, we never knew the words, you're on mute. And now it's the first thing that comes to being. And aren't you impressed that I managed to get you on the iPad as opposed to the link you sent me on the telephone?
No.
Well,
Eat him.
And you know who that is, don't you? It's another one of our...
Winston! Winston, how we doing? Wonderful. Okay, you're live on air, so please don't swear.
Yeah, well, yeah. Winston was just saying, I see you speaking to Amar again.
Yeah. Well, right. Winston, we'll have to sort you out in a minute.
Yes.
No Wonderful. Anyway. Good morning, Mr. Curry. Would you care to say who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Have we not done this before?
But there's new listeners, there's new people, and we're recording. So this is live. It's broadcast internationally now.
Oh, put me under an awful lot of pressure. Well, you know, you and I have been together for about 14, 15 years. I was there at the beginning with ABC with you. We pursue it vigorously, and we've got new ideas and new ways of moving forward for the next sort of, I use the word decade loosely, but we've done 1 decade. And of course, my background was I was retired senior police officer, so I'd just bring a little different perspective to the world. But together, I think you and I and 1 or 2 others who are involved with ABC make a good team to pursue the objectives of ABC: promote, connect, support.
Absolutely, absolutely. And prior to us meeting Mr. Curry, because lots of people just don't believe the fact that you were the sound of the police.
Well, no, you just like enjoying having a go at myself on lots of different levels in a way that you're not able to be sort of prosecuted.
Interesting. That's a fantastic statement. Elaborate and explain that.
I think the way to say it is, you've got no problem whatsoever with your sense of humour in relation to how you and I work together. And I suppose what we could say, if we're going international, how you and I met. So you were a member of Your Homes Newcastle as an independent director. I, after leaving the police service, was an independent director for Gateshead Housing Company. And together they put some of the directors on what was then a governance course for 6 weeks.
Nice.
You and I had never seen each other beforehand. And during the course of the 6 weeks, taking us back to our school days, the lecturer, stroke instructor, whatever word we use, kept us apart because she said we were destroying the class because of our schoolboy behaviour.
Destroying? I don't think that was. No, I don't think she quite said that.
Destroying is maybe not the word. We were influencing her ability to educate us. How about that?
No, I don't. I disagree with that. Absolutely, it was. Right. I think it was more a case of they really found us entertaining. Everybody was like really interested in what we had to say, and sadly, she didn't feel quite the same way because she was teaching us.
So, is there any reason why you and I had to sit in the two respective corners of the room?
I think you're mistaking us for that class that we used to be in. When we were sort of 8, 9, 10, and then after that, there was many a time that you'd set the dogs on me in Cruddas Park and things like that. And then you used to chase me in this car, and I thought you were just having a laugh. I'd regularly, sort of try and lose you because I just thought we were playing tag and hadn't realised that the blue light above your car meant that I should actually stop and do something. But it was anyway.
But let's just go back one step. You said when we were back to being 7 and 8, yes. And you know the difference now between men and boys, don't you?
I don't think this is a politically correct show, so it has to be. The difference between them and they. I think is what you have to say. You can't say men and boys.
Oh, you can. The difference between men and boys is the price of their toys. We can now buy the Xboxes and the fast cars and everything we wanted to if we're in that sort of world, as opposed to when we just looked over into the shop and thought, I wonder if I could get an Xbox for Christmas. So that was only the difference between us men and boys. There wasn't a great deal of difference then. Anyway, carry on.
I think you make a very valid point because growing up, we didn't have any toys at all.
Well, Christmas was a whole mean thing, wasn't it? I remember. Well, okay, let's do it a different way. What was your best Christmas?
It was the last Christmas when I give you my heart.
Yeah, and you were on the snow. You were on the ski.
And the very next day, you give it away.
Yeah. Well, let me go a different way. My best Christmas was, my dad was a joiner, right? And I'm told by my mother, who's now 87, my father's not with me, that they wanted to buy their own house, but he couldn't because he only was on £8 a week wages. So we're going back to probably early 60s. And as a joiner, he made me a fort in a zoo and then filled it with animals and soldiers. And that was the best Christmas I ever had. And in the loft, you will still see, or if you want to see, I don't know what we're going to do with it, the fort is still there, which he built with his own hands. And from what I'm told now, every time I went to bed at night time, he went into the living room and started creating this fort. And it was created, and it was, it was a time where there was a lot of innocence, and I've never forgot that.
Yeah, and for me, it wasn't ever because we never got anything. The highlight for me was because we were really poor, right? We weren't we weren't always poor. And I'll come on to that point in a second. But because we then became quite poor overnight. The highlight of Christmas was probably the fact that Mum would buy the Radio Times, which you had to pay for, and you would get to see 2 weeks of what's on television, and you'd circle the stuff that you'd like to see.
Absolutely.
And we'd shut the curtains. It was permanently dark, and we'd watch telly, and we'd go and rent a video player, 2 or 3 tapes from Lala Videos on Stanhope Street, and just lock ourselves away and forget everything, forget all the woes, all the worries, and literally just sort of binge on television. But the family was just sat there, and we'd the worst thing was going to the outside toilet, because it was cold. I just thought I'd reinforce that sense of sort of deprivation.
Yeah, well, I can absolutely relate to that, because we did exactly the same in the context of families. The Radio Times for the 2 weeks, or it was the Radio Times and probably the Viewer at the time, wasn't it? Where you had 2 weeks, and then you looked at, and I quite like cowboy films and different things. But as I moved on, and maybe this is, I don't know where this conversation is going, in today's world, when I first started with Sky, it was because Kevin Keegan got Newcastle promoted and I couldn't get Sky Sports otherwise. And I had Sky Cinema for a while. So every time the latest blockbuster came out on Sky Cinema, you got it before terrestrial TV. And it spoiled my Christmas, because the blockbusters that were on TV at Christmas, you'd already seen. Because, and then we go back to what you said, we used to love waiting for the latest film that you could never get anywhere else. So I don't watch any films before that, but Christmas now on the TV is a little spoiled for me and probably a lot of other people, because I've either been there or we've seen them all before, and we didn't have that magic, even for television, that you're relating to, which I totally agree with.
Yeah, it's just now it's like it's a total different experience. But I must admit, Alan, it is something that as a family we still congregate around, and especially myself, my wife, and my son. We watch things like The Apprentice together, and we chuckle because it's just like silly, as in from a viewing, it's dramatized and everybody's. But our son loves that, and then we're spoiled by how much there is. I can vaguely remember, because I'm not quite, and just for the benefit of the tape,
I know
I'm not quite as young as you,
sure.
but I remember vaguely Channel 4, right, and it was like, oh my gosh, an extra channel was the thing, and it was like crazy, like how that fanfare, and all of a sudden, you didn't just push that thing or that thing or that thing, because there used to be like, I don't know, eight or nine push buttons on a television that you'd like boom, boom, or you do that to change the channel. And then did you ever used to bang the side of the telly and it worked?
Yeah, well, recognizing the word maturity, I thought it was a big deal when BBC Two came along, right? You're just relating to the next channel after BBC Two, because not everybody could have BBC Two until they had a special area. But what you're actually relating to, again, is some of the things we possibly lost in the context when you're taking the time to sit with your children, who obviously, I know Zara and Yusuf, to to watch television and do the family things together. Sometimes, and not because I can say it aloud, you get the impression that in today's society, we miss some of the family things to do. We tend to allow our children potentially to do their own thing, as opposed to recognize the value of family.
I think, from a family collective point of view and the advent of digital immersion, everything's changed, and of course it's changing. And one of the things that I keep reflecting upon, Alan, is very much the generations have to change. Well, they do change. They don't have to change. It's a matter of fact. They change. So what my late father or late mother would have experienced is distinctly different to what I have experienced. Like, what you doing that for? Get off that. Do this, do that. And the similar type of conversations. But I must admit, I'm quite patient and I'm quite relaxed with the kids when it comes to doing stuff that they like and want to do, which is primarily sat like that, doing like this. And then when they do come and sit next to me, which is a peculiar thing, but when they do come and sit next to me, not the sitting next to me, but the peculiar thing is that all of a sudden everyone's fidgety, and which has brought about fidget spinners, and imagine like getting something to control your fidgetness, or whatever the term is. Right now, isn't it crazy that we now have kids in particular cannot sit still. I mean, we couldn't. Sit down, type of thing. But it's even worse now because they don't have the headspace that is their own, and rather than that being a generational thing going downwards in generations, right? It's now coming up, Alan. It's now infected all of us. We are constantly glued to like, bing, bong, bing, bing.
Excuse me. Some of us more than others, right? You see, we have this conversation, don't you? I won't put emails on my phone. If somebody wants to ring me or contact me, my phone is with me 24 hours a day. But if you expect me to pick an email up, and the issue, and again, you're as bad as anybody with this, in the context of emails, it always, the telephone vibrates or does whatever. Winston, get off that. He's just busy eating a phone, right? So come here, right? Come here, right? But in the context of emails, how many times do you get the phone and it's rubbish because it's some spam, but you feel you've got to look at it in case it's something important, as opposed to in the world we actually live in, and like you and I all the time, we never send, well, you do send the odd email, but if you want me, you ring me. And how many times do you ever not get me? Because the phone's in my hand. So my logic's dead simple. If it's important, you'll ring me. If it's not, you'll send me an email and I'll get to it eventually. But we've become into this world, and the dangers of teaching our children exactly the same. You're slightly different, and I mean that in a positive sense, because you do spend time with the kids, you do different things, and you're trying to teach them. But I'm not being puritanical here, but I suspect there are a lot of people. I mean, I as I walk Winston round the streets, I see kids in pushchairs playing games. And what are you doing at this moment in time?
Listening to you?
Yeah. I suspect you're obviously got to sign some important contract or something like that. You couldn't possibly be looking at your phone on the conversation we're having.
Absolutely not. Not when kids in pushchairs are sat there. I hope that's not your phone ringing.
It is. Just a moment. One
That's
second.
Outrageous.
Hello? Yes?
You've won.
I'll send Pat round. Okay, cheers. Now then, you see that's
On the phone. I'm
No, but
on
it's
the phone.
it's the point I
Do you
make. I mean,
remember, what was he,
wait,
Don
wait a
Johnny?
minute.
I'm on the
Excuse me.
phone.
You think that was spontaneous? That was rehearsed to prove a point to you, right?
Oh, I pushed the button, obviously. But, so well, listen, whether you're on the phone or I'm on the phone.
No, you're always on the phone.
But the point is,
and your children will see that.
The on the phone is on the phone.
But you see, the point is, that's just proved my point. Now,
which is what? What was your point?
Well, today I mentioned to you earlier on that sadly I have to go to my friend's mother's funeral.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And ironically, we were getting our hair cut this morning, Pat and I. So it's not being very sensitive getting your hair cut to go to a funeral. That was the lady.
Why? Why would you think or suggest that?
I think that's just a little bit sort of like, I'm lost the word here, but that you want to look your best for a funeral. I just want to be there to respect the person. So if you think I'd ever get my hair cut to go to a funeral, it just happened today, and sadly his mother died. But that lady on the phone there was the girl who's going to cut our hair, saying, if you're ready. So it again proves my point. If you want me, I'm there. If she sent me an email to say, Alan, could you come round a bit earlier? I might read it tonight. So the immediacy of today's world, as opposed to just taking it in our time and our stride, unless it's urgent.
The point that I was making, Alan, is the one that you're reinforcing, which is the ability to have some head space and the importance of it. And the fact we live in an overwhelming, immersive world where digital has taken over. We were fortunate last week because of the pains and the trials and tribulations generally of attempting to move house and it not going very well. We just had to have a little break because we were sick of looking at the boxes in the house. So we managed to get to Kielder. And when was the last time you went to Kielder?
With the grandchildren who are now, as you know, 23 and 24, they would probably be about 8 and 9. We went to the Christmas fair up there.
Yeah.
And I met Mrs. Claus. And to be perfectly honest, if I wasn't married, I would have asked her out. She was lovely.
Yeah. Great. You would never say that. I bet your Pat's gone to round to the hairdresser.
She's got to go get a haircut. Yes, you're quite right.
Because you would never say that in front of her. But anyway,
are you going to explain who Pat is for the viewers?
For the benefit of the
tape.
The tape. I just love that. What's that program called? Where they who was H? What was it called?
Oh, Line of Duty.
Line of Duty, yeah. So I just like rehearse, and then you used to watch The Bill, and The Bill modernized as well. The Bill was an incredible program. I used to love it. Anyway, Pat is my favorite person in the world.
Even before me.
Especially before you, but even after you. But yeah, and we'd gone to Kielder at a Christmas fair a few years back. In fact, we went when our daughter was 6 weeks old, and we
remember that.
And we walked around. It was like obviously Christmas time because it was a Christmas fair. And it was beautiful, it was wonderful. But I must admit, I can't really recall going there any other time.
Yeah,
I feel as if I've driven around it because it's a fantastic place but never really gone down to Landl, the reservoir, and whatever else. Anyway, we got a last minute lodge, and it was actually a good deal because it was last minute, exactly what we needed. But there was no signal, like phone signal and things like that. There was Wi-Fi. No, there was Wi-Fi in the thing, so obviously everyone was like, but it had like a hot tub, and we just done stuff. We got with the nature, and I don't know if anyone will remember, because it certainly doesn't feel like it when you're looking outdoors, out windows right now, but it was almost summer-esque last weekend, and it was
last weekend.
It was beautiful. So we were sat in the hot tub, watching the stars, just relaxing, and the kids were like, "Oh my gosh, it was just an amazing experience." And what are you doing?
What do you mean? I'm checking my dog. Look.
All right, okay.
I'm trying to keep him to the side.
Fair enough.
Before he barks.
Anyway, the point was getting with nature and walking up and down the hill, and in the restaurant, it's like a pub bar restaurant thing. It's got like whatever, and we just went on the water, as in looked on the water, played crazy golf, just done stuff. And my point was, it was amazing. It was so refreshing, and now all of us will naturally sit having our dinner looking at digital devices and things like that. Yeah. It's just like, it's a given.
Well, you should have a rule for no digital devices at the table.
Well, yeah, you should, but as in, it's the thing that I'm seeing, and the point that I was trying to make is unlike how generations have shifted, right? And it was always down over, so it was the next generation that was like adopting modernization and technologies and all of that. I could never imagine my mum or dad sat there with a Tommy thing going and it wasn't mine. I never had one, but I managed to nick one off my friend or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, as I was
chasing you with a blue light on.
Yeah, something like that. And as I was sat there with a Tommy thing, next thing I'd get like like, what you doing? And it's like, get off that thing.
I mean,
but my point is what's happened is the digital immersiveness and immersion has gone up over generations, and arguably the last couple of years, rightly so, because without technology, people would have really struggled.
Was technology the reason why we might have, and I'm not saying we have, I listen a lot to debates, was the reason why we were a little quick to go into lockdown, because we knew we could cope slightly differently with the way we did business? Telling me a business.
I don't think it was, did it? Did we? I think it just so happened that it accelerated the drive to digital.
No, I was just thinking. I was listening to some people.
It's normalized it a lot more as well.
Well, I was just listening to some people talking about lockdowns and things like that on some of the radio shows I listen to, and they were suggesting that maybe 20 years ago we couldn't have locked down, and we would have looked to do things differently, because apparently lockdown was never in any pandemic plans, but there was a suggestion that we could and still manage a certain amount of normality because of the digital world we live in, as opposed to 20, 30 years ago where you couldn't have done that, which made the decision to lock down easier because of technology. I have no view either way. I'm repeating what I've heard. I'm just interested in your views.
Yeah, I probably disagree with the fact that we wouldn't or couldn't have locked down. I think we would have locked down regardless. It would have just been a distinctly different type of lockdown, and the impact of lockdown as a consequence would have been far more significant.
Would it have been?
Both mentally in particular, but also from a wealth point of view. So don't forget that the stuff that got us through lockdown was the ability to order stuff and get it delivered. 20 years ago, Amazon didn't exist.
Well, no, go back to my point then. We wouldn't have locked down if we couldn't get stuff coming to the doors.
But what would you have done?
We would have just lived through it.
Well, in the good old days, you used to like...
excuse me. Don't bring ageism in here.
The mines,
Don't
right?
bring ageism in.
Used to go down the mines. We used to have lard. We'd eat like
Actually,
tubs of lard.
You've just reminded me, because I live in a bungalow that has a chimney. I need somebody to get up there and clean it out.
And I think that you make a very valid point, in all honesty. I think there's a whole range of influences and influencers to how society has moved on. I mean, we probably sound like the two old guys from the Muppets or whatever they're called.
No, excuse me, you've already put me in that category and you removed yourself from that. I appreciate
well,
you bringing yourself into it.
I've added myself back in.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Reality is good.
Well, it needs to be fair and equitable, and all
I
of
love
that.
The word. Bring equity into it.
Yeah.
Actually, let's move on a little bit.
Okay. Anyway, I need to do a quick business topic of the week type thing. Business topic of the week. I need to drop this slide in. I need to share my screen, and I need to quickly do this so that we. Can you see that, Alan?
I can see. Yes, I can. Developing a financial plan.
Yeah. So, business topic of the week. So, this week, today, April marks the beginning of the new financial year. And what better time than to review or create a financial plan for your business? Almost all companies perform some kind of financial planning or budgeting, but there are particular reasons why a financial plan is important for an organization. The key thing around financial planning is that it is even more important now, Alan, given the impact of inflation. So today, insurance, leisure, hospitality, electricity, gas, everything in the world has gone up. Alan?
Yeah, no, I thought, sorry, I didn't realize you were looking for a response there. I actually, with the love of your life, Pat, after Louise, I do a lot of the shopping, and it's amazing today's world when you go shopping. I can recall, bear in mind I'm one of the Muppets now, in the context of people put up prices, it would be a penny or twopence. Things go up 25 pence or 50 pence or even £1. Because I do the shopping regularly, you see, okay, I can see the way business works, how they give an offer one week, then say they're reducing it. But some of the increases in food, what's the word we're looking at? Profiteering? I mean, definitely fuel in the context of the way things have gone. I remember I was a police cadet in 74, right, 73. And my dad used to take me backwards and forwards to Durham, where I was resident for 2 years. And the Sun headline was, a gallon of petrol, 50 pence. There was hell on. And now if you look at it, notwithstanding we work in metrics, a gallon of petrol now is about £8. How's that happened? I accept natural inflation and wages and everything else.
How much did you get paid?
Me?
No, what was the average wage?
I don't know. I know what I got. And I bear in mind I was like an apprentice. I got £9 a week.
And how many shillings?
We didn't have many shillings at the time. It was a clear £9, right? But you wouldn't even know what a farthing or a sixpence is or anything like that, would you?
No, I know a penny farthing is a bite.
Yeah. And in fairness, I didn't know what a farthing was. But we had things like halfpennies and pennies and tuppence and shillings, and then of course we went.
I think it was a half. It was called halfpenny, wasn't it? Because we had half pennies.
Yeah, well, a halfpenny was the correct pronunciation. We used to refer to it, as you would say as a Geordie, a halfpenny.
A hinny.
A halfpenny, not a hinny.
Oh,
a hinny's a good friend. Are you all right, hinny?
That's not a Geordie word, though, is it?
Or where's it come from?
I think it comes from more of a either outlying in the pit village type of places and spaces like Gateshead or like sort of, you know, the more rural areas.
How can you say?
I don't think hinny was or is a Geordie term.
Okay. Strange enough, I've been doing a little research on some of these old expressions that we've lost now.
Right.
So my grandma used to say to me, "You've got cuddy's lugs."
Yeah.
Do you know what a cuddy is?
A pig.
A what?
A pig.
No, we can't talk about pigs with yourself, right? A cuddy is a horse or a donkey, right? And my grandma used to say to that because my dad always had an expression about children should be seen and not heard. But you know, when you overheard adult conversations that you weren't supposed to, and you maybe had a comment, she would say, "You've got cuddy's looks because you weren't supposed to hear what they said."
What did you say? Anyway, Dan, good morning.
Hello.
Hey,
How are you?
thanks for tuning in.
No worries. I'm just frantically Googling, is hinny Geordie? So I can come up with the answer.
Well, I think it is, but Amar somehow seems to think it's in the Outer Hebrides or something like that.
No, I didn't quite say the Outer Hebrides.
No, you didn't.
I cannot imagine, and I cannot. So what is it? And I just can't imagine, like Geordies, because Geordies are from a particular area, aren't they? And then it was extended out. So Geordies are like being born on the north banks of the Tyne in Newcastle.
Do you think that's the right definition?
Well, that's my definition.
Well, that's fine with your definition. I would have said anything linked to sort of the northeast, and of course, northeast for me probably personally goes Sunderland and up. Not
Where
Sunderland
does
down.
Mackham come from then?
I haven't got a clue. I mean, I'm prepared to acknowledge that we have some good Mackham friends. Maybe not a loyal Sunderland supporter, because I'm not. But,
no, but as in, sorry, I meant as in you just said a Geordie covers the whole of the northeast, including Sunderland.
Well, I think it could.
Well, not really, right? Not if you're a Mackham.
Well, no, I think some people would say they're a Mackham, but if you had to go one step further, I think you can have individual localities, but then you went for a collective noun, you would say I'm a Geordie.
So what would you call someone from sort of Middlesbrough, something like that? We need to be mindful of being politically correct. So allegedly, and there's a caveat, and nano or whatever it is.
Excuse me, is there any reason why you've now warned me twice on that particular subject?
Alien stuff. No, that's not nano, was it?
Peace be with you. Peace be with you.
Star Trek.
Yeah. Peace be with you.
Star Trek?
Yes. Mr. Spock. Okay to call Mr. Spock?
I don't know. That was his name.
I mean, I'm obviously getting a complex now that you've twice warned me about political correctness. And
I was thinking about myself. Sorry, just for the purposes for the benefit of the tape.
For the benefit of the tape. Yeah,
because it will. And you know what was really interesting? Sorry, just digressing, because that's what we constantly do. Because we constantly do. Was I looked at, someone had shared with me a role, a government appointed role, because I've had some of them previously, and someone had shared last week and said, "Amar, you might want to consider this." And in it, it actually asks quite explicitly, is there anything in your social media or online presence or anything like that might cause an issue in 50 years. And I'm thinking, well, of course there's going to be. And I don't know, I didn't say that. But I'm just thinking, I can remember, growing up in an environment where a spade was a spade.
Well, now, can we just be careful here? Because you've warned me about political correctness. Do you know I've been trying to develop a talk called Political Incorrectness?
Dan, what do you think about that?
Well, I think political incorrectness is probably not only to be looked at as the opposite of political correctness, as it were, because there's probably differing opinions on what constitutes being politically correct, depending on who you are and where you are and what you are. So I tend to think of things like, if we go back to being Geordies to an extent, there was a definition of Geordies that was based around being on the north of the town and within a mile of the city centre where you were born, which I can remember growing up with, was the sort of definition, if you like. However, I think that is an internal thing. And I think that when people externally are looking at Geordies, I think that they are thinking about people from the northeast in general, if that makes sense.
That's a good balance, because if you use them within a mile of the town, I would not be described as a Geordie. But if you, because I was born and bred in Gosford, but if you use the other aspect of people in the northeast being described as Geordies, I would absolutely go along with that. It's only a mile.
Is that why you take umbrage to the fact that I was suggesting that I am a Geordie and you're not?
Well, no, let me
Chris out now, Alan.
No, it's a good point, actually, because on the context of where you used to live in the West End and live in Byker, the only thing I would get out, can you remember how many yards are in a mile, Lamar?
No.
Right, it's 1,760. So if you can say you lived within 1,760 yards of the town, I'm prepared to accept you as a Geordie and maybe a Geordie plus. But I suspect even when you lived at Heaton and the West End, you weren't within 1,760 yards. So I'm sorry, within that definition, I can't accept you being a Geordie. I was born,
and I've still got my birth certificate, 198 Armstrong Road. Where is that?
Is it 1,760 yards from the town? And do we use the town from the town bridge, or do we use the town as it goes to Corbridge?
Sorry, Alan. I think it's the north side of the town and within a mile from the city centre.
Right. So let's say the town bridge is a central point. That would be reasonable, wouldn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
North bank of the town.
Town bridge, somehow. I can see.
No, he didn't say that. He said town.
Well, no, if you're using the town, Corbridge has the town.
Anyway.
Yes, all I would say there, Dan, is once we get anywhere, that's an admission of defeat.
Oh, absolutely not. Far from it. There is no admission. Did you hear me go, sorry,
no, I don't ever.
That's outrageous. As if I would ever say that. Anyway.
I don't ever doubt you would say I'm right. All I'm saying is it's an admission.
The point that I was making, Your Honour, was
your worships.
Was what do you call someone from Middlesbrough?
Well, he said we've got to be politically correct, so it's probably a person from Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Anyway. I mean, there's another word begins with S, but it escapes me at the moment.
And it rhymes with Winston.
Churchill? No, doesn't ring a bell.
Doesn't it? All right. I thought it was dog.
You're moving into dangerous territory. I mean,
Anyway, right, okay. Normally Jeff would talk about football. Right, the tune's great.
Well, he would. No, I'm very happy with that sort of scenario. It's. Do you know what it is? And I mean, I listen to Jaff obviously talking about football, and yourself and your brother does. I used to do. I don't know if he still does some commentary in the journal, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure he's still a pundit. So yeah.
Yeah, but well, before you came on, Dan, I was mentioning about Sky, and I got Sky back in '96 because Kevin Keegan got promoted. ITV had the rights then, but once the Premiership came in, I got Sky. And I love my football. I love Keegan, some of the years we've gone through. But I have to say, the last maybe 7, 8 years, my heart wasn't in it. And, you know, there's actually, and I was brought up black and white. My first game was Inter Milan at home when we defended the Fairs Cup and we won 2-0 and Wyn Davies scored 2. And I was a part of a 60,000 crowd standing in the Leazes end. But the last 8, 9 years, there's been sometimes I haven't remembered they were playing. It was so boring. If your ambition is to be fourth bottom, well, let's not bother. But, and notwithstanding everything that's going on about human rights, who the owners are, etc., put that to one side. The fact I have a little bit hope now, and it looks like we probably are, given a good win behind us, avoid relegation. I'm really looking forward to the future of Newcastle United.
I'm excited. And my son and I are going to the Liverpool match because sadly, and here's
obviously
because he's a
you haven't, have you?
Because he's a he's a Scouser.
Don't say it.
He's a Scouser, and we're in the
north side of the Mersey in 1 mile of the city centre.
He was. He actually really was. He was, he was born at Liverpool's Women's Hospital, which is on the north side of the Mersey, within the space of a mile of the Hoover Dam or whatever it's called. Anyway,
excuse me, I've met your mother-in-law and your father-in-law. They're lovely people, but how did you allow that influence to creep in?
It's well, because they're a good team. I'm a fair weather. I'm a fair weather supporter.
Oh, you're fair weather supporter, right? The glory
I had a box at Newcastle United, you know, so when Rude Mullet was there, and I remember actually there was an 8-seater. I remember going there with like 2 of us, and we'd sit and watch because some of the matches were late on a Saturday, and I'm sure we used to watch like X Factor rather than the football.
Well, what you should do now is you should
anyway, we're going, and my son says, can I wear my Liverpool strip? Of course he can't.
Just a minute.
The sad thing about it is he's going to get really excited.
Wait a minute.
Liverpool.
Just a minute. I've come out all funny.
Out of sweat.
I think I'm getting one of my heads. Look, because the way it's going forward, what you want to do is get a new box, and then you can invite Pat and I.
Well, I'll do that. Yeah. I might just get a couple of seats so me and Pat can go there. But
do you know what it is? I only went. You know, one friend Harry, he had some tickets for hospitality in Sunderland a lot of years ago, right? So we went down. They were in the 2nd division. They were playing Ipswich. Watched the match, and of course, you go for a meal afterwards. But on the television, in the Sunderland dining area, Newcastle were playing at 4 o'clock. So, of course, I'm in the Sunderland locality having a meal, watching the Newcastle match. And very early on, I think they were playing Watford, and Kutspire scored. And I jumped up and cheered, and it was like you were amongst a load of vultures.
I remember you saying, actually.
Yeah. Nobody else was moving, and I was like the centre of attraction in the whole room because I cheered a Newcastle goal in a Sunderland stadium. And you just sit down very quietly again.
Yeah, so I mean, we're in the we're in hospitality. I can't remember if we're in the chairman's suite or whatever it is, but anyway,
goes without saying.
It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Dan, tell us about you. Tell us about who you are, what you do, why you do it.
Yeah, I mean, for those who haven't heard me on the radio before, I've been on a couple of times, but I'm currently working as the Customer Experience Director at the SME, and we are opening up our arms towards new, embryonic and existing businesses to help them develop their plans and strategies, to help them with their marketing endeavors, to help them with their business requirements, advice, knowledge and help across the board. We've got a really strong team here who are very experienced. So amongst the set of consultants that work here, we have many years combined experience here. So we can help you with the most basic of tasks or the most complex of problems and help you get through those with relative ease. We've just started to really try to help businesses with promotion and marketing activities. So we're currently offering a number of packages ranging from really quite low level, easy maintenance and not a lot of head scratching for the customer themselves. We'll take the strain of things for quite reasonable prices. So if anybody would like to drop us a line or get involved with us, then obviously we'd be very happy to run a short business diagnostic with you and give you an overview. In fact, I was speaking to one of the guys in the office this morning about a diagnostic that we'd done this week. And whilst we gave them 30 minutes of our time for free, they're still pondering as to whether or not they'd like to go ahead with the proposal that we've put to them. But after speaking to them yesterday and looking at what they'd done as a result of that 30-minute conversation on the phone with their website and with their social media, in particular their banners and the way that they looked, they've become a lot more professional because of the things that we explained to them they needed to do. And I think it's already starting to help their business, and that's even after 2 days later. So some really basic stuff that we were explaining to them in that conversation. So I think having a diagnostic with us is probably a really good thing to do. You'll pick up some really good advice and some very helpful tips that you can implement on your own, and obviously come back to us you know, at any point in time if you'd require a deeper dive into your business and how we can help you. But yeah, things are looking good. We've actually got some really good customers, some really good clients at the moment on the SME side of things. We've got another exciting project that's Ammar's baby, if you like, but it's a really strong blended set of, I guess, learning experiences that result in high-level qualifications. And that's a really exciting thing that we'll probably be talking about a little bit more on the radio in the future. But that's a huge project that we're getting off the ground. So that's really exciting. And we've also got the things, I think you guys maybe have touched on ABC, I hope, today, but you know, promoting ABC.
About to go back to that, Dan, because just for the last few minutes, but no, thank you for that. And I know that Allan wanted to highlight and praise the Lord and the fact that we went to one of the most magical places and spaces from a religious point of view, the Gurdwara. Allan.
You know, I think there's two things. Dan, I hope Ben's hit you with the, I asked him to hit you with the report for your views on inclusive by default. To have a look at that and see how you can help us expertise that way for ABC. The other side of that is our last ABC Curry Club was at the Gurdwara. And Ammar's right, it's, you know, the new Gurdwara. I did the old one, I've been there before. The new one is a magical location. You can see the time and effort that's been put into it. But the host couldn't have been more welcoming. And I do like when we sat and discussed things, when we did the ABC meeting itself, when they talked about their three principles: work hard, share, and don't look for reward, which was really good. The only thing that crossed my mind, because they always said in the context, you know, basically, we're quite happy with whatever religion. They do a lot of good work during the course of the day. The kitchen's working all day. Maybe I think we should be saying, and we have said, thank you very much, even though they're not looking for any gratification or thanks. But it was you used the word magic, Lamar. I think that's one of those times where you haven't overemphasized it. It was a lovely evening. The people were great. And what an opportunity for some of the members of ABC who are not of that faith to understand different faiths and how it all fits into the Northeast community.
I think it's an incredible space and place, and I think the fact that, as you say, they were so welcoming, they fed us, and you know, that whole experience of opening it up for everyone was a really big deal. So you know, our curry clubs are now growing regularly with the support of Allan and Doc, you know, taking the lead, and Ben sort of doing what needs to happen from an engagement marketing point of view. And that offer is galvanized, and I think that's the point you were coming on to make, Dan, you know, is that we've got 14 years of inclusion by default. We are the representative body for Asian businesses and community across the whole of the Northeast, and that's, you know, not just the banks of the Tyne or the banks of the Weir, or the
Tees.
The Tees, that was it, Tees, yeah. Anyway, you've been listening to Amar and
Allan.
And the three amigos. You know, we'll be back with all your views, news, and one or two clues, and some blues from the world is what we. Why was it called blues anyway, Allan?
It's to do with music, isn't it? The blues?
It's okay. No, blueies. Blueies is what I'm thinking about.
Oh, well, you see, that's not my background. I mean, it might have been when you were more than 1,760 yards from the Tyne Bridge, where you were involved with blueies, but I wouldn't want to go there. And again, we go back to the original thing. The reason somebody was chasing you with a blue light on might have something to do with blues. I do not know.
All right, excellent. Anyway, and now I just like this kids program on Nickelodeon. It's called Blues Clues or something like that. Anyway, on that note, we'll be back. Happy April the 1st. Thank you.
Take care, people. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And Ramzan Mubarak, everyone.
Does that mean April Fool's?
Yes.
No, it means Happy Ramadan. Anyway, farewell.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, Dan.
Bye. See
Bye-bye.
you. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not.
I'm going to take you with us, right?